Hello and welcome to the walkthrough video for Swirly Drums by Karoryfer Samples. This is a drum kit played with brushes, which has some unusual features. The most important, as you heard at the start, is the snare stirs or swirls. But there are also some kit pieces which are very rare in a brushed kit, such as broken cymbals and the darbouka. Stylistically, it's more indie than anything else. It's like a punk drummer somehow ended up playing low volume music and tried to use a big variety of kit pieces. It uses the free Plogue Sforzando sampler plugin, and there are over 4,500 files adding up to 1.7 gigabytes. So let's take a look at this one kit piece at a time, starting with the snare. You get the typical center hits and edge hits. There are no effects at all on anything in this walkthrough, so this is the raw sound of the kit. Then it gets more interesting. On MIDI key 39 there's a dig articulation, which is basically a hit which leaves the brush on the head, which mutes the sound and keeps it from ringing. Digs will also mute regular hits. The stirs are the coolest part. They are basically the reason we want to make this kit. They have flexible, controllable length, so they can be used at any tempo. And they have 4 articulations. On MIDI note 60 is your basic long stir. On 64 is a faster stir, which can be used as an accent. On 61 and 63 there are flutters. These articulations will all mute each other with an adjustable release time, so you can play long stirs and accent them with short stirs or flutters without all the sounds playing on top of each other. MIDI note 62 mutes any stir or flutter currently playing, so you can use it to shorten those as needed. The start time and end time are adjustable, so you can have very long stirs or shorter ones for slower or faster songs, and at max length it will work for a full bar in 4/4 time at about 60 beats per minute or even less. The mix controls for the snare are top and bottom mics, plus an ambience knob which adds overhead and room sound. Past 50% on this, you actually get 2 rooms at once. The snare also has tune, pan and deaden controls, with the deaden adding an envelope to simulate a muted drum, or at extreme settings turn it into a short glitch. And finally, on MIDI note 74, we have a quiet little noise of the brush being picked up from the head after a dig. This will work as a release noise for digs, or also it will work at the end of a stir pattern. And it can add a nice little touch of realism to quiet parts. The main kick is a 20-inch marching band bass drum from the 1950s, currently being used by the drummer from the folk punk band Hańba. It also has sympathetic snare buzz. Let's gradually bring that up and hear what that sounds like. The other kick is a cajon being played with a kick pedal. You can use whichever kick fits a song better, or layer them together, or you can do the George of the Jungle theme thing. Finally, there's a little mechanical kick pedal noise. Again, it can be useful to include it for a bit of added realism just before a kick hit. Now for the hi-hat. It has 6 degrees of openness. And there are also foot chick and foot splash articulations. There's also a little pedal return noise, again barely audible. I actually turned up its default volume here so you can hear it. There are 6 cymbals. The first one's a typical crash. The second one's a typical ride with only 1 articulation. We tried recording bell hits, but with a brush, they didn't really sound all that different. There's also a splash cymbal. Then it gets weirder. There's a China crash, which I have never heard anybody play with brushes in real life, so I was not expecting it to sound very good, but I was pleasantly surprised. It's actually really cool, especially with gentler hits. It sounds like sand being poured into a metal bowl. There's also a broken crash with 3 sizable chunks missing, and a cracked splash for your thrashy and lo-fi cymbal needs. Then we have the toms. There are 5 from 16 to 8 inches. They belong to a metal drummer, so they're tuned pretty low. Played with brushes, they make more of a whoosh than a boom, but that makes for really cool fills. And finally we have percussion, more sounds you don't usually get with brushed drum kits. There's a cowbell. There's a pair of bongos being hit with brushes. There's a djembe, which has a nice deep boom. It probably sounds closer to a floor tom being played with drumsticks than any of the toms do. Together with the bongos, it makes a good alternative to 3 toms, sort of a small indie toms thing. And finally, the darbouka. This is, again, something I was not expecting to sound all that good, but it turned out that hit with a brush, it makes a very bright metallic sound. I've already used this sound in 2 tracks before the kit was ready, layering it with snares to add brightness to the attack. Like the cajon, you don't get all the techniques you'd get playing a darbouka as a darbouka with your hands. You only get one articulation, center hits with the brush. If you crank deaden all the way up on the percussion, you get these really glitchy but organic sounds, and it's even better if you turn up the tuning as well. And saying your grandpa's brushed drum kit. Well, maybe sometimes it is, but at this particular time, it isn't. So that's the whole kit. This is a lot of stuff, so we also included a simplified instrument with only 1 kick, snare, hi-hat, 3 toms and 2 cymbals. And there are also bus instruments, which include only 1 category of kit pieces. So the kick bus has both kicks, the percussion bus has all the percussion instruments, and so on. And these bus instruments can be used to send different kit pieces to different mixer channels, since Sforzando only has 1 output per instance. You can order this kit from Karoryfer Samples at karoryfer.com, and while you're there, also take a look at our various free instruments and check out the music on our label, including Hańba, who used the marching band bass drum that's in this kit. Thanks for watching.